There are certain odd things that you will encounter during your government job search. Some federal agencies will leave you scratching your head. Let's talk about some of this strange behavior. First is during the actual interview. A lot of times you can be asked questions completely outside of your resume. So I had an interview for the Department of Air Force. They had about 6 of us, virtual interview. Now keep in mind, I was referred, right? So they had to review my resume for that. I was also selected for an interview. So I went through 2 stages of the selection process. And one of the first questions that was asked to me during the interview is, what is my experience with the DSCS system? And I was like, DSCS? What in the heck is that? That wasn't anywhere in the job announcement. That's nowhere in my resume. There's nothing leading a person to believe that I would have any exposure to that type of system. They had my resume. I assumed somebody looked through it. So ultimately I had to say, no, I don't have any experience with that, but I'm a quick learner. But that wasn't it. They followed up with another oddball question. It was another question specific to a system that they had in the Air Force that I had no clue about. And you can easily find yourself in this type of situation where you're thinking, what am I even doing applying for this job? Why am I wasting my time in front of this panel? You read the job announcement. You think that you're qualified for it. You apply, you wait all this time, and you don't find out until you're sitting down in front of people or you're on the phone with the interview panel that you don't know half of the things they want you to know for the job. The next thing is you apply to a job, you get referred, you get the interview, you feel like everything is going great, but then you don't hear from the agency. You don't hear from them for weeks or months sometimes. They just go completely silent on you, and there's no reason that you can think of on why you were just ghosted. So this can easily happen because a lot of federal agencies, they don't have a forcing mechanism that requires and pushes the HR to give you closure, to close that loop. Most people assume this means they don't get the job, so they just completely forget about it. Now, it does help to still have closure, and if you want, take that job announcement, scroll all the way down to the bottom. There you should find a point of contact, somebody that you can either email or call asking about the status. Next thing, you can actually get a tentative job offer and you accept it. You do all the onboarding process and the final job offer is in limbo. And this is because of a budget freeze or a budget cut. Something happened with the budget and you're not getting that final job offer for a long time, if at all. I went through this during the continuing resolution of the fiscal budget. And every few weeks, I would reach out and say, hey, do you know the status? Where are we at in the hiring process? Do you need something from me? Am I failing to do something? And HR would just come back and say, hey, due to the continuing resolution, still pending, there's nothing that we can do. I'll let you know when we can move forward. So in this type of situation, there's nothing that you can really do except keep applying. Keep applying to those other jobs. Do not take it that you had that job locked and secured until you show up on your first day. Another thing that can happen is the job offer falls through during step negotiations. Some people apply for a lower GS grade thinking that they can get the higher end of that pay scale. There are people that earn $75,000, $80,000 a year and then they apply for a GS9 thinking that they're going to get GS9 step 10 because maybe GS9 step 10 is close to that $75,000 mark. But federal agencies do not have to negotiate with you. They can at times, but you shouldn't take it for granted that it's going to happen. So when the federal agency is not able to meet that step requirement, sometimes the applicant takes a step back and say, well, I can't afford to take this type of pay cut, so I'm not going to accept the offer now. Everyone should have a clear understanding on what the salary is going to be. So if you're applying for a GS11, have it in your head. They're going to offer you a step 1. They're probably not going to offer you anything higher. So if you can afford to take a GS11 step 1, apply for your GS11 positions. But if you can't afford to take it, look at the next higher GS grade and just apply for that position. The next thing that's kind of rough to say is there are times where you're going to be interviewed and the hiring manager has no intentions of hiring you. This can happen for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they saw a familiar face. They just interviewed somebody and they know that person. Or maybe the position was already earmarked for someone else. The most important thing to understand about this type of situation is you can't really do anything about it, right? It's not within your control. So do not waste the time and energy of getting frustrated. Look at that interview as an opportunity to rehearse, to practice, to get better. Do not start harboring this resentment and thinking that everything is rigged against you, because it's not always that way. Okay, so maybe you have encountered some of these issues I mentioned. Maybe you haven't. But if you have, I want to share something with you that can help change and shift your mindset on why you're doing everything right, but you're not getting the results. You're not getting the job offer or the interview. If you want to know that, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.